Another one of those little interesting videos about our dear friend Jabba the Hutt you know, and the latest variant that's out there, and what are people saying, and what's really the science saying on this matter. This is my personal opinion on my take of the science and stuff like that. This is not should not be construed or viewed as medical advice for anyone in terms of any related areas of that. As my dear friends at Google and YouTube would tell you, is you should only listen to the medical authorities on all these matters, even though, in my personal opinion, they've got so many things really wrong. Anyway, let's move on, and I'll just share my screen quickly in that regard. So, share. Anyway, so basically this is from Reuters, and this was based on research coming out of these crackpots at the Imperial College London. They're the same people that started all the actual fuss back in, basically, remember, December 2019? They're the ones that actually published a lot of this sort of stuff in those early days from the UK that told us that the end of the world is nigh, and basically told us to basically go and hide and find a virology suit. That was how dangerous everything was. I've talked about this, about the piss poor epidemiology that was done, how they were criticised by a number of people because they jumped the gun, and they didn't consider that a lot of people from regional areas around that city were coming into there and distorting the numbers. And so the sort of numbers that we were getting were very different. Also, it was the early days, and we didn't know how it was going to play out, and it was, at that stage, it was much harder to contract, but if you did, the likelihood of finding yourself in an ICU was much higher than what it is today, as all viruses, as they mutate, in particular corona type viruses, they have a tendency to become less lethal, but can spread and create bigger viral loads than in the past. So they develop the method of being able to spread much easier, but not kill the host, obviously, because if you want to spread and become a dominant variant, you need to basically keep those people alive. And so basically that's what's changing. Now they've again jumped the gun very early and made these claims that yes, the new variant is 5 times it's more infectious. That's true. It's actually higher than that, but I'll get to that because there's actually good research. This is again this organisation jumping the gun and not basically waiting for the actual evidence before they make their claims. They're always making claims before. They say no signs milder than Delta, which is nonsense. But some say too early to know. Obviously too early to know. Again, jumping the gun. Nothing new here. Again, they're saying here, basically two close encounters with Jabba the Hutt offer little or no of the latest variant protection. Well, more nonsense, different day. The same sort of stuff that these people continually come up with, and it's nothing new on that front. It's something to be expected from the Imperial College of London and their crackpot epidemiologists. So we'll leave it at that and move on. Now, some real research, absolutely real research, and this is out of Hong Kong. I have to thank my brother Sean, who picked up on this on the early release and actually sent it to me and told me about it. I should have made a video earlier this week, but I just didn't have the time. Just caught up with too many other things, so better late than never. And my little take on this, as you can see, it's, the Hong Kong people have actually done proper research. This is not epidemiology. This is sort of looking at, what it's actually doing in the body. They're actually looking at infection of human bronchial tissue. That's where it's actually happening. It's not going into the lungs and infecting like the other variants. So it basically produces a mild cold for maybe a week, maybe a bit longer if somebody's got slightly immunocompromised. But it's basically in the bronchial tissue, not in the lungs, causing a lot of inflammation in there, a lot of fluid buildup and pneumonia type symptoms, which especially with people that are got comorbidities, have got poor T cell to clear the stuff out early enough, are not on a species appropriate diet, getting enough taurine to support their thymus. You've heard it all, and I will remind people that haven't seen those videos, at the end of this video, I'll put them right there, the two ones on T cells and stuff like that, and a species appropriate diet for people to go and see them in order to get that information if they haven't seen them. If they have, they can ignore that part. So basically, they're saying the study led by researchers at the LKS Faculty of Medicine at the University of Hong Kong provide the first information on how the novel variant concerns. We won't call it out because you know what YouTube are like in terms of that. And I'll just zoom in just so people can actually see it much better. Okay, so that's the title. It'll be in the description, so if anybody wants to look at it. So as you can see, infection, human respiratory tract. The research found that the latest variant infects and multiplies 70 times faster. Not 5 times, 70 times faster. So you want to stop it with a mask or stuff like that? The likelihood of that is unlikely at all. And we've already seen Tasmania that had basically nothing whatsoever. Obviously the ABC has gone haywire in sort of scaring people out of their minds. Nothing new here. And basically Tasmania's recorded 26 new cases. It's a population of about 500,000, just so people have got a perspective on what we're talking about. Taking the total to 52. And the previous record is 15 that occurred April last year. And that was the outbreak up north, I believe. And basically that was in Burnie, people that know the place. One of the cases has been hospitalised, however, not for COVID-related reasons. So it's not related to the actual virus itself. It's related to other issues whatsoever. People may have got a whole lot of other health issues. So, but obviously, our dear illustrious leader down here, Comrade Peter, is basically telling us to, go and have a close encounter with, with Jabba the Hutt and stuff like that, is the key message here, and sort of makes this spurious claim. No, the new variant is very mild in comparison. They don't understand the science, and they're actually jumping the gun again and going crazy because it is, the reality is, it does basically create a viral load 70 times faster. So it multiplies 70 times faster, and so, you want to stop it, you got Buckley's chance. But because it actually infects the bronchial tissue, we can see here. So you can actually see these are the previous variants, the original and the Delta, and basically you've got much lower in the bronchial. This is much higher after 24 hours. After 48 hours, it's still much higher. and it's only that basically because pretty much the other variants actually infect the lungs and then can actually start infecting the bronchial tissue. In this case, when it comes to the lungs, it's the complete opposite, as you can see. Now, obviously, how quickly you clear it out of your system depends on your vitamin D status, as we've talked about, and your species appropriate eating, which will give you the appropriate level of T lymphocyte protection. So that's a different issue altogether. So how long these symptoms, even with a new variant, persist may be longer, but at least basically we haven't seen, dramatic hospitalization issues. And it's because this variant pretty much is more in the bronchial tissue than in the lungs. That's the important part. Now, there may be cases where people that have got really poor T lymphocytes, autoimmune diseases, they've had cancer therapy and stuff like that, they may have suppressed T cells for a number of reasons. In those cases, those people may be slightly vulnerable, but we haven't really seen much. Even in South Africa, the head of the actual body there, and this is with people with HIV and other, very problematic immune systems. Even there, most people are sort of turned up at hospital, been there under observation for a couple of days, and then released, and not even ended up in ICU. So it's definitely hitting the bronchial tissue and not the lungs. And the significance is much higher in those, and it drops, in terms of significance, and it depends on the people. It really depends on the people, but they're actually showing these differences are quite stark. Bronchial in comparison to lungs in that regard. And so then the previous ones, so it will outcompete the old variants, which is a good thing. Something that's mild like this should be let, This is the type of variant you want to actually achieve herd immunity. Now, are the politicians going to be wise enough? Time will tell. You don't want, you may, in a sick population like we have, you probably don't want something like that to basically achieve herd immunity. And if this was still around, I'd be recommending people basically, try and improve their health, their immune system and stuff like that as the key focus. But with this new variant, let it rip, I say, because the potential for mild symptoms and herd immunity is really real. So we should be pushing for this because we can open up our economies much quicker, and we can basically reduce potential risks, future risks. Because something like this gets around and becomes the dominant over the next couple of years, it'll actually just burn through the population and it'll be a non-issue. And that's the sort of variant we really want to support. We don't want to be supporting the previous ones. We want them to die out within the population. So the best way to achieve that is, I would say, like they used to do in the past to get herd immunity. They used to have parties. It could be an O party. Yes, it could be. But I'll leave you lovely people to ponder that. This is not medical advice, as always. This is my personal opinion based on the best science. This is it, out of Hong Kong. It's the latest science that looks quite clear at what's actually happening, where the infections are actually taking place, in the bronchial tissue is where, and this is with electron micrograph, so we're talking about where they are looking very detailed into where this is happening. That's 100 nanometers, and that is 500 nanometers a bit further out. As you can see more that's further in, and they're actually absolutely seeing where it actually is going. They can actually see exactly where it's in, where the infection parties, which is great. It's great that basically it's in the bronchial tissue and it's not in the lungs, which those who are vulnerable, it can be a bit, far more problematic in that regard, because unfortunately most people nowadays have, so as they actually say, their study shows that the latest variant infection in the lungs is significantly lower than the original, which may be an indicator of lower disease severity. This research is currently under peer review for publication. It is under peer review, but look, guys, the evidence is quite clear. You know, this will get through peer review very easily. There's nothing controversial here. Here they've actually they show mechanisms. They actually show clear proof of where this variant is infecting. You know, this is black and white. This is not something that will fail peer review. Let's make that quite clear. So the research is quite clear about the current variant. Will the medical authorities and the politicians heed and realise here's an opportunity to basically open up our economies much quicker, and and stop playing these silly little games, and also focus on, rather than building like in the US, producing 500,000 kits to basically identify things. Really what they should be doing is, like Sean Baker said recently, they should be basically producing kits for people with diabetes to basically monitor their uncontrolled blood sugar levels and things like that, and promote, sun and vitamin D supplementation, promote animal food consumption, or at least as a minimum, if people have an issue with that, taurine supplementation to support your thymus and T lymphocyte production as your first line of defense. But no, we know what they're going to be doing. They'll be asking you to go out there and boost Jabba the Hutt. That's what they'll be telling you. They'll be telling you to embrace Jabba the Hutt forever, to make him your best pal and mate, embrace him forever, and make sure that he becomes a family member. That is because it helps companies like Pfizer and others. They have needs of money. They are so in desperate needs of more profits. We have to support them, according to our dear friends at Google. Exactly, you damn bigots. Yes, you're not doing the right thing by supporting these corporations. They are struggling and suffering. You damn bigots. That's all I can say. Anyway, I will say goodbye. I hope you enjoyed this, and I send a warm, friendly, to my dear friends at Google and the AI. Yes, please don't be nasty to me. Anyway, see yous.